Welcome to the Vocal Lab Podcast with your hosts, Shelby Rollins and Jason Catron, bringing you the best from the music industry. Get ready for first-class conversations packed with exclusive techniques and transformative insights, all designed to help you reach your top note. Hey, everybody. Welcome to today's episode. Shelby, great to be with you today.
You as well, Jason.
I don't know why I said it like that. It was kind of
fancy,
weird, expression of my sensibilities and
you are very
feelings
creative
today. Yeah. Most days. Yeah. Did you have a great holiday weekend?
I did.
I guess when we filmed this, yesterday was Memorial Day. Whenever
Memorial
you
Day.
watch this, it could be 6 months from now. Who knows? Not that long, but.
So I took the day off. Did you take the day off?
I did. Yeah, I went to Kentucky to the farm.
Oh, that's right. I saw pictures of your pig.
Yeah, I have a pet pig. Her name's Roxy.
It's a good name for a pig.
Yeah, it was hot in the barn, and she wasn't having it yesterday. She's in a bad mood. So I just kind of said, hey, petted her belly, and heard some, and that was about it.
And you have horses?
Horses, yeah, lots of horses.
Very
So said
pretty.
hey to them, and yeah, that was it. Didn't do anything else at the farm other than say hey to the pets and petted them.
I was around a lot of children and swimming.
Same
yesterday.
thing. Exact same thing.
Lots of swimming in the pool, lots of grilling, lots of little people all around.
Yeah, it was a beautiful day. So,
was.
And it's a beautiful day now, and we're here. What are we talking about today?
We were talking about all the things that you need to know if you are a aspiring artist, if you consider yourself to be in that top tier, that elite level of artistry, because we are vocal coaches. And
we are.
By
in
trade,
case you didn't know.
that is what we have been doing for many, many years now. And kind of the bread and butter of our career for many years has been in coaching voices. So we know a lot about this and what is important to make sure you develop in your voice, the things that it's incredibly vital that you train and prioritize in your voice, and sort of why that is. That's kind of, we're not going to be here to teach you some vocal exercises. That's another platform, but
we're
here
we'll
to talk to
throw
you
that
about
other places.
what you need and why you need it.
Yeah, and I think it's a good reminder. I grew up in church as a little kid. You did too. And it was one of those reminders. You go to church, you hear the same thing over and over. It's basically the same stories.
Yeah.
They'll come around every year or two. You'll hear that story again about A, B, or C, whatever it was. And I remember as a kid just being like, gosh, why do I keep hearing these same stories? But it is a constant reminder that we are people and we're human, and we all have bad habits, and we all have some good habits, and we all get distracted, we all get busy, we all get just in a flow of something. And regardless of what we're doing, whether it's singing or training for a marathon or working on a new business project, whatever, the distractions come and go and the bad habits fall into place. And so we need those constant reminders, just like growing up in church and even currently, and being reminded like how to be a good human. Yeah. It never hurts to be reminded of these really good practices and great tangents. You like to call them tenets, right? Poles?
Tent poles.
Tent poles.
Yes, I do.
She refers to the tent poles a lot. And, it's really common for our tent to get a little water on top of it or get a little saggy, or maybe a wind comes in and blows it a bit, and we have to kind of reposition the tent. And I think that's what today's episode will really hone in on a little bit. Yeah. It's just a reminder to all of us, even us included, as much as we coach, and I think you agree with this, as much as we coach other people, I'm always being reminded of great things I need to be reminded of. Yeah. And touching on little parts of my voice or my person or my mental chaos that goes on a daily to try to clear the clutter. Yeah. And that's really important, and why I should always keep going back to those little elementary fundamentals of the voice. Yeah,
you never graduate from the fundamentals, the foundations. You just build on top of them.
That's a great point.
So it's always important to make sure that they're
It'd be like building a house and taking out the foundation after it was built.
Right.
No one would do that.
No one would do that.
No.
Except
in Jenga.
Except in Jenga. But then eventually
it collapses.
The tower comes down.
Well, the analogies are strong today.
I know. They really are. So I find
Guess what you don't build your tent poles on with?
A paper straw.
Paper straw. We're going to talk about paper straws a lot because it was a topic before we started this. And I just made the comment that I take y'all be mad if you want, but I take several paper straws when a place has paper straws
You are
because they get
canceled.
soggy. Because
Let's
I
cancel
like to
Jason.
sip my
He's
coffee.
wasting the paper straw.
I like to sip my coffee over
Yeah.
an hour or two, and the paper straw gets soggy.
Paper was never meant to be dredged through liquids.
Nor was your voice meant to be dredged through bad habits.
Well, we had to bring it back somehow, right?
Do you like how I did that?
I do. It's pretty good. So
Thanks.
I find that probably one of the first things that I encounter in an artist in one-on-one training is mindset. Mindset is probably one of the biggest obstacles for people in any kind of personal growth situation, whether that be your voice or your business or your fitness or whatever. It's mindset. And a lot of times with the kind of pedagogy that we teach, the muscular component and all of that is so different than what people have typically experienced in their training thus far. They come to us and they have these like, whoa, kind of experiences in a first-time lesson. And I'm not saying that to like show off or pat ourselves on the back. It just is the reality of science and muscle coordination that we don't teach, for instance, a ton, not any, but a ton of breathing techniques, right? It comes up, but more in the context of how to leverage the air through muscle compression of the voice. And so something like that is an example, right? Takes people's expectations when they walk in the door of like, oh, I mean, what is the number one thing you hear people tell you when they walk in the door sometimes in a first-time session?
Like what they want?
Yeah, or what they think their problem is. Oh, I need to work on
breathing.
Breathing.
Yeah.
They always think it's breathing. And I'm like, it's probably not.
Yeah.
You're alive. Good job. You're good at breathing. Congrats.
That's what I say too. It's like,
would you like a medal?
You don't have to tell you how to breathe when you talk. Therefore, I shouldn't have to tell you how to breathe when you sing. Except occasion. There are instances for sure.
But we overemphasize it so much in vocal teaching that when I just take that in, I'm like listening. I'm like, oh, okay. So I hear you say this, and what I know that probably means is you don't have great cord closure. The muscle of your voice is probably weak, so you're not using that air very well. Too much is escaping, and your voice sounds weak. You're not able to do X, Y, Z. Typically, like high notes.
Sure.
And so,
I think that's also a great distinction between like classical coaching, bel canto, the great classical method that you and I both grew up learning. And I think I was taught how to belt. I'm sure you were, being musical theater. You weren't?
I was not.
Oh, I thought you would have been.
I was not taught how to belt.
Lucky you.
Nope.
But it's a big distinction between classical coaching and commercial coaching for sure. And because I was taught to belt, so breathing was always where we started. Making sure I knew how to use that diaphragm, how to really breathe well, do all the breathing exercises. So today, in my coaching methodology, I do incorporate a little bit of both, depending on the client.
Right.
But if it's a true, straight up like pop or country guy or girl, really don't have to address it very often. It's pretty rare.
And what's fascinating too is a lot of what we teach has roots in bel canto.
For sure.
Like you listen to somebody like Pavarotti, and even the way he would describe his voice in interviews, he would talk about how I go through these bridges and I squeeze and then I release and then I squeeze, and he kind of described his voice like this figure eight as he would go through the passagios of his transition points, right? And he would talk about compression. He would talk about using the muscle of the voice to actually put a little bit of squeeze to help those cords hold together. He didn't really talk a whole lot about breathing in one sense. I mean, maybe he has, and I just haven't listened to those interviews. But the point is that is very similar to the methodology that we were both trained in, that has a lot more to do with muscle coordination and resonant placement than much anything else. Other things matter. Right? The articulators, they matter, especially in how they influence your resonance and influence power. And the breathing matters because you have to use air when you're singing or speaking. But because those things happen in like is it the autonomic nervous system? I don't know.
Sure.
Science. The parts of your body that do the parts of your person that function without you having to think about them functioning, like your heart beating, your body breathing, right? That stuff that happens automatically, thankfully, doesn't require as much forethought. And so the mind, kind of coming back to that mindset piece, is when I help somebody experience the thing, their self-diagnosis is I'm bad at breathing. Therefore, ergo, I cannot sing these high notes. I don't, because I'm not supporting enough. That's usually the mental approach to that. Well, so a lot of times what I'll end up doing is I'll take them through certain exercises and they'll do these different things. And all of a sudden they have these high notes. And I talked about breathing 0 times. That was never actually any part of the tangible factor of the technique that we did. It was so much less complicated than that.
Well, totally. And I think...
And they're like, whoa, oh my gosh. And it's like, that's the mindset. You have to think of singing differently.
Exactly. And the biggest problem there, not being breathing, was you gave the high note some sort of mental preference. And it built up a fear or a doubt that became the problem, the actual problem. Right. And that's what you and I can help people remove that. I say daily almost that singing is 90% mental and 10% the activity. Yeah. And that's really anything we do.
Right.
Everything is so mental. And I think that's also where you and I started to elevate in our own realms as coaches from our mentorship, was that, yeah, we have all these elements and fundamental technical, all these aspects of singing itself that we grew up doing, little bits, nuggets, pieces along the way from different coaches. But then when we really dove into training as early coaches, and again, the mentorship that we had, it really did start to dive deep into the mental understanding of the voice of the person, every aspect of your person,
right.
And being able to elevate ourselves in a coaching realm that way, I fully believe has helped me be a very effective coach to the clients I get to work with.
Right.
And you're right. It's very, very seldom do we even, we'll always hit on technique at times, but especially when necessary. But the majority is really trying to get the roadblocks out of the way so that people can just, I say this all the time too, just open up and let the sounds out. That's what you did when you were first born as a baby. Right. And those big sounds fill up a room.
Yeah.
With our humanity and self-awareness, we, again, become very insecure, self-conscious, and all the problems start to flood into the scenario, in this case being the voice.
I think a lot of those problems enter around puberty for most singers, because that's when the voice changes. That physiological shift happens for both male and female vocalists. And what we had easy, organic, not even thinking about it type of access to in range and connection, all of a sudden it just changes. It doesn't disappear. It changes. It's almost like it relocates. And we're left to figure that out. And something that we were never really cognizant and self-aware of before, all of a sudden we're like, where did it go?
Sure.
And now all of a sudden we have these hard times, these issues getting in there. And now we think that it's nebulous, it's mysterious, it's hard.
Yeah.
I think they take to simplify that.
100%.
And bring us back to childhood.
I think they take root there. I think they actually start when a kid's 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, and they, especially a kid that likes to sing, or even has a little bit of natural talent, because what is one thing immediately that every parent tells their child not to do when you're at a restaurant, when you're in public, or at a friend's house?
Like,
stop your
whining.
Stop crying. That is the natural sound of the human.
It's crazy,
right?
Guilty. I've done that. I've told
we
my
all
kids
do
to stop
it.
whining.
But the whine and the cry, as Shelby and I help clients understand, in this essence of connecting your voice, this problem where, you know, we go through adolescence, through puberty, and we get the crack or the break in the voice. Yeah. It's the whine and the cry that actually connect that of those two registers, so that we get that smooth transitioning. So all these problems come in.
Yeah.
You meet someone like Shelby and myself, and we help you push out the problems and try to clear the mental confusion of how your voice just actually functions, and do fun things around that so that it's fun. You can open your mouth and sing.
Yeah.
It's really not that hard.
These crazy noises with us.
It's really not that hard.
It's not. And I tell people, you know, you're saying this. I say this almost daily. This is what I say almost daily, is if you think that it's hard, you will approach it with striving. But if you know that it's easy, you will approach it with authority.
Wow. Write that one down. Say that again.
Oh, I have written it down. But I will say it again for the people in the back. If you think that it's hard, you will approach it with striving. because that's your association with it, right? It's hard. I can't find it. It's difficult. So that means I'm going to work harder to get there, which is only reinforcing the problem. That's all it does, is it's just reinforcing the habit of strife around, for instance, a high note, which is one of the most common roadblocks for people. But if you know that it's easy because it's been simplified for you, because you've been able to cry on pitch and make it dumb, like so stupid.
That's what I say. Singing is so easy, it's dumb.
Right?
It really is. But it can be the hardest thing to figure out.
Yeah.
But
when you know that it's easy,
back to the mental challenge.
You approach it with authority and confidence. Something that our mentor, Brett Manning, always would say, is one of my favorite Brett quotes, was don't direct it, expect it.
Ooh, I don't think I've ever heard him say that. That's
good.
I
love it, because and when we're directing it, we're like, I got to go this way and detour and do these weird manipulations to get a sound out. When instead, if I just expect it to be there, I have that confidence, that authority, and when I open my mouth, there aren't any issues standing in my way. A question I ask people all the time is, how differently would you sing if you had no awareness of your quote unquote flaws?
Ooh, yeah.
How differently would you sing? And everybody, without fail, is like, oh, probably a lot better or a lot freer or whatever, because they recognize that they approach singing as a whole with anxiety, with fear, confusion, overthinking, and they just assume that it's hard. But it's not hard to talk, so why should it be hard to sing? And that's like the basis of a lot of our pedagogy is speech level singing, which is Seth Riggs' MO, his kind of thought baby. I don't know. Yeah. And then Brett's Singing Success, which was an iteration of SLS, speech level singing. And so that's kind of a lot of that overarching concept. And I remember.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't know, Seth Riggs is regarded as the father of modern vocal coaching. He was one of the first guys to really take this concept of commercial singing and formulate it into a methodology that he moved out to LA and started working with all the stars.
I mean, everybody
from Michael Jackson to
Stevie Wonder
down the list. I mean, he's worked with everybody, and he really transformed the concepts of again, modern coaching, teaching, and singing.
Yeah, and a lot of things have iterated from there.
And there are many methodologies out there now.
There's
and
some great stuff out there.
I think that's a point to make here is like, do not let all the methodologies confuse your mind.
Right.
Just go back to what we're talking about in these little phrases that Shelby just said and experience the expression of just opening yourself up to make sound. And there might be a little road bump here or there. Something may be a little challenging more than the other. But the moment you attach that to the confusion and question marks of the brain, you're going to complicate that problem more and more and more. Yeah. And if you allow that to be, well, this person says this and that person says that, because there's a million vocal coaches on the internet. It is ridiculous.
Who were telling you, I'm right and that person's wrong.
And that is never true.
No, it's not. It's not. And
that is never true.
There's elements of truth in what a lot of people are saying.
Of course.
And there's elements of things that are kind of wrong in what all of us are saying, right? And so
it's
that phrase, chew up the fat and spit out the bones a little bit.
Yeah,
like knowing your voice, understanding the function of the muscle of singing is incredibly important, which is cerebral and kind of heady and might feel kind of complicated, but it's really important to understand some of the basics so that you have the discernment to understand what is for you. And not everything out there is for you. I had somebody reach out to me. I think this is a current email in my inbox that I have not responded to, but I saw this that was like, hey, I just paid for this 30-day singing something. I don't know. Everybody's got their thing, right? And I was really hopeful it was going to do this, but it really hasn't helped me do this. So what do you think that I should do? And while I appreciate the question, I don't even know what the thing is that they were doing. I have no idea what it was. And there's so much out there. It can be very overwhelming and confusing of, well, what should I do? And I think one of the biggest things is one, is it getting you results? Is it actually helping and moving the needle in a tangible way that not just kind of like I ate a salad today, so I should probably have a 6-pack tomorrow. Like, no, like really though, are you seeing transformation in your voice relatively quickly? But the other thing is like, have you found somebody that really connects to you? Are
Yes.
you connecting with that and vibing with that coach?
You have to.
And understanding the language that they use to describe the voice.
For sure. And if you really want to learn, you got to do more than just a course. You need to find a coach that you really connect with and work with them.
Yeah.
Or one of their associates if you can't
Right.
maybe afford their fee if they're a high-level coach.
Because how important is it to train, Jason?
It's everything. It literally is everything. Whether it's the voice, whether it's your body, whether it's your brain, just reading. Right. I don't read enough. I rarely ever read.
Read some more.
I know, but it's like all these things in our body need to function efficiently.
Yeah.
And the only way that really finds its true potential is through training. Mm-hmm. And again, whatever you're doing, whether you're learning to cook or, build cars, whatever, you have to train with a mentor. It's so important. And finding that right mentor, trying to eliminate as much noise as possible.
Yeah.
And grow together through that. Mm-hmm. And you can grow so much through an online course or through watching free videos on YouTube. I mean, we put out free stuff all the time, but there is nothing like that one-on-one, because it goes back to what we're talking about today. Sitting across, if I go in and work with Shelby, which Shelby is one of the few people that I allow. That's a really egotistical way to say that. Shelby's one of the few people that I fully trust with my voice in any aspect. I trust her to take care of me and my voice.
Back at you.
Yeah. And that's deeper than just because she's great at coaching. That's because I really trust her as a person. And I know she trusts me and she understands me at a deep level at this point through our friendship from coaching and working on each other's voices. And so there's nothing can replace that.
Right.
And having that other set of eyes and ears when I need it or when you need it is so important. And that is what will build a long-term career if you're going out as an artist thing.
Which is a big deal.
It's a huge deal. I would venture to say there are probably more people, well, that would make sense because there are more amateur singers than there are professional singers probably in the world. But my guess is that the ratio of people trying to be singers or amateur singers that study with a coach is probably far greater than those professionals that do.
Which is crazy.
Which is real crazy.
Because
I'd be like saying I make it in the NFL and then I stop using a coach.
Exactly. And one of the reasons these people are quote unquote professionals is because they have maybe gotten a deal, right?
Yes.
They're in management, publishing,
somehow making
record
money
label.
doing it.
Right. Somehow making money doing it. So that's their profession. And to say, like, at the height of these athletes' careers, I know we've talked about this on the podcast before, but like the Tiger Woods, the Michael Jordans of your respective athletic profession, at the height of their career, they were training the hardest. It's that Kobe mentality too. Have we talked about this here? The Mamba mentality?
I don't think we talked about Mamba mentality.
I find Kobe Bryant like really fascinating. I want to read, somebody tell me like a biography recommendation because I want to read a book about him. Because he talked a lot about in practice sessions, for instance, or in the team context, he got some crap for like not passing the ball enough. And he was like, look, I get to practice an hour, 2 hours before everybody else. I stay an hour to 2 hours after everyone leaves. I put in 10 times more work than everybody else. Who do you think I trust with the ball?
Yeah.
Me. and you can judge it all you want, but the reality is he understood that he put in the training more than the absolute bare minimum required amount of something. And these are also other athletes that are professional, that are really working hard.
At the top of their game.
It's not to demean anybody else on the team, but he just went so much further. And that's why he was who he was and was at the level of success that he had, is because of that approach to it. And it seems so crazy. No one would ever expect an athlete to not have a coach and put in those reps and do all the work required. But it's really common in artists, especially in singers, in that profession, is you don't see this in things like dance either, because even though that's a creative artistry field, it's athletic, right?
Right.
But the voice is tethered to your body. It is a muscle. Furthermore, the voice is a muscle, not just an aesthetic. And I say this, if you train the voice like the muscle that it is, then it will function aesthetically. But if you treat it like an aesthetic, it's not going to grow.
Ooh, that's really good.
Thank you.
I've never heard you say that. or even thought of it in that regard.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
we
cool.
really do think of the voice as just
Yeah.
purely an aesthetic. And while it has that side of it, if you don't train it like a muscle, it's not going to be aesthetically pleasing.
No, and it's so easy to sit back and just let the voice be what it is.
Yeah,
and
I'm
let
artistic.
and if it's
creative.
cool, and if it's it's really easy to wear that badge of honor that I don't need a coach. I'm too cool for that. And again, all that goes back to the mindset, the ego that's attached to it.
Yeah.
It's all things that Shelby and I are consistently trying to help manage in the artist mind and person, so that you can just be the most effective, conscious, clear-headed, confident artist that you want to be.
Yeah.
And then we get out of the way and let you run.
Yeah, because like, what if you
and
trusted
cheer you
your
on?
voice?
And that's the best part. We cheer you on.
Yeah.
Who doesn't love a cheerleader?
And what if you
That
trusted
sounded
your
like
voice?
weird.
I want a cheerleader. I feel like I needed one earlier today. I needed somebody to be like, rah, rah, Shelby, come on. You know?
Yeah.
I just need a little.
We all do.
Anyway.
Yeah.
But if you really and truly trusted your voice, think about the choices that might be different on stage that you would make, because you have full confidence in what is going to come out, and you're not making choices in such a way to just save face or get away with something.
Right. And that doesn't mean that what comes out might not sound a little pitchy at times, or might even crack here or there, or might not come out exactly as you wanted, but you're not afraid to let it be that.
Yeah, that's true.
That is where
But
all
those things happen less when
they happen way less
when you're trained.
They happen way less, but when they do, you just don't worry about it, and you're not afraid that it does happen.
Right.
You know, we use every coach does. We use all these analogies consistently, daily, over and over. But you know, to that point, I say daily as well. The most beautiful things in life are broken things. Broken people are the most beautiful people. We've all been someone at some time trying to let people see the cracks or breaks in our person, right? We definitely do that as singers. And we've mentioned that before too on here, like being okay if the voice breaks informs you to really trust fully and confidently that in most cases it's not going to do that. But when it does, you just keep running on. Yeah. It's like, you know, to Kobe or whoever, it's like not being able to make the shot. Okay, you're not going to make all of them, but you keep going.
This interview, so at the time of this taping, is the Eastern and Western Coast Finals in basketball in the NBA playoffs. So the next round is the finals.
I do not watch the sports.
My husband and my son are very much into this. And so anyway, you do watch horse racing?
I do watch horses.
The Bucks just got eliminated, I believe, last night, and so did the Pacers. I want to say both series were swept, like a 4-0. It's the best out of 7, and I think both of them got swept, which is really unusual. It went 4-0, I think. Please don't quote me on this. Anyway, I watched a post-game interview with Giannis, and I can't remember his last name. He plays for the Bucks, and they had just lost, and some interviewer in the post-game interview was like, would you consider this season a failure? And I loved his response. He was just like, oh my God. He's like, listen, you asked me this question last season. And I was like, oh, here we go. Buckle up. And he was like, every year that you, in your job as an interviewer, do you get a raise every single year? Do you get a promotion every single year? No. He's like, no, I'm actually asking you this. He's like, do you consider you a failure this year because you didn't get a promotion? And the guy was forced to answer the question. He's like, right. He goes, Michael Jordan won, he played for 15 seasons. He won 6 championships. 9 of those he did not. Are those 9 seasons that he didn't win a failure? When you're talking about the GOAT, right? Yeah. And he was like, of course not. He's like, whatever you're doing, maybe it's that you're making money to pay the bills for your family, to do this. He was like, it's progress. He's like, all of that is success. And it was so well done. I mean, I reposted it. I was like, that's everybody cool. in the world needs to watch this. Whether you're an artist or a plumber, I do not care. Everybody needs to watch this. How important is that to understand the value of everything that you're doing is not for your ultimate goal. You do need to know what that is and be going toward that. But everything that you do is not meant to make a very, very specific, tangible step forward in the direction of that goal. And if you can't really see it, doesn't mean that it's a failure. And everything that you're doing is some sort of fail in your life. It's all growth. It's all progress. And kind of coming back to what we were talking about at the very beginning, it's putting in the reps, like the things that you do over and over the course of time. Repetition is what creates momentum,
yes,
which actually gives you growth
and progress.
Right? But one
to the
single
point,
rep doesn't make me feel like I did a whole lot.
And I think that's to the bigger point. You do have to train and put in the reps.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can't just keep singing the same song over and over.
Practice makes progress.
Yes, it's not just accepting your voice, your talent for what it is, but putting in the work to always be striving to be better and do more.
Yeah.
It made me think too, I don't know if you've ever seen like old videos, like they used to interview singers before big shows and stuff and after shows, you know?
There's some really good
they would, like her, Elvis, Frank, all those people, they would get interviewed after these big concerts or before. We don't really do that anymore. Maybe in certain tours or countries
Let's bring it back. Hey, you should
that
have
would be
us.
Cool. Yeah, let us
come and we'll
all of
interview you.
Yeah.
It'd be great.
Well, this has been fun. I think we're going to continue this conversation.
What were you about to say about the interviews of the artists?
Oh, I was just saying they should bring that back. That's what I was going to say.
Oh.
Because then it would put them back in the hot seat.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Be like, that third song tonight, Luke Bryan. What happened there?
What happened there?
Yeah. And they could explain some of that stuff.
Right.
No, this has been great. This mental issue is never going to go away.
Which is really all we actually talked about for the most part today, of like all the things that you need to know as a singer. And maybe this is just our series, right? I'm kicking it off. Of as vocal coaches, this is what we know that you need to know. And the first and foremost thing is that mindset.
Yes.
Is that approach to your voice, to training it. It never stops. You don't ever arrive, right? You continuously grow. And the best people, the best artists that I've ever worked with, the most talented, are the ones who get that.
Yes.
They get that.
They get it.
They know they're good, but they also know. It's like the more you learn, the more you know you have to learn, right? That idea, that adage. And that's what the greatest artists understand, that at a deep level, and they keep training.
And the reality that you never know it all, that you've got to keep learning. And that
stay on your toes.
goes for us. You have to. And so full circle on all of this, working with a great coach is going to allow you to have a cheerleader on your team and someone who's going to help get in your mindset and help keep you sane in the insanity of the music business.
Yeah.
And at times you work on technique, at times you'll work on music. You'll sing a lot of fun stuff, but more than anything, it's really just being that coach in your realm to always help you succeed to your fullest potential and be confident in that process.
Right.
That's the biggest thing we offer to people.
Right.
And so if you're out there thinking like, oh, I don't need a coach, they're going to change me, or I'm already good enough or whatever, just re-listen to this and think of it in a different perspective. And I know you'll understand where we're coming from and realize, wow, we can really be a great asset to you in your future and your career.
I mean, we'll go to the grave.
Go to the grave.
This.
We will.
Speaking of, I need to book a lesson with you, Jason.
Oh, let's do that. I should do that too. Yeah. We definitely should.
Okay.
And then,
All right.
Well, this was fantastic as always.
Always.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. Until next time, I'm Jason.
And I'm Shelby.
And we'll see you soon. Thanks for tuning in to the Vocal Lab podcast. Ready to join the top ranks of the music industry? Don't forget to follow and subscribe for more first-class conversations that make the extraordinary your new ordinary. Until next time, keep striving for your top note.